Hello everyone, and today we're back for another Loomian Legacy top 5 video, and we're going to be talking about the top 5 niche Loomians in all of Loomian Legacy. These are the Loomians that are really one note, very predictable, only have one viable set, but despite that, these Loomians can also be very good. So with that out of the way, let's head right onto this top 5 list. Number 5 onto this list is going to be Thawmin. Now, everyone knows Thawmin's potential. With the Foresight ability that has Mind-type priority, it has really good coverage, and it also hits decently hard for a late-game cleaner. But the problem is that that's kind of the only role for Thawmin. The fact that it has Mind-type 90 power priority is insane, but you also gotta keep your Thawmin extremely healthy, and the biggest problem with Thawmin is that it's very frail. So even if it gets hit by a neutral hit, it's gonna go down halfway, and you lose that Mind-type priority. Meaning most of the time, you're going to be battling with a 4v5 until you get your Thawmin on the field. Not to mention, this thing doesn't really do enough damage unless you have hazards up, and even then, it still might not be enough. Thawmin's very good. If you can use Thawmin in the right situation, it can definitely be very dangerous, and that's what makes it so niche. It's so hard to use. You can only use it in a late game cleaning situation, and even then, it might not even do as much damage compared to other late game cleaners, like Zulong. So yeah, it's a very good Loomian, but it's very niche. It doesn't have any other things other than its Foresight Mind priority. But despite that, it can be very dangerous if used correctly. And that's why it did actually make the list, despite Thawmin's crucial flaws. Number 4 onto this list is going to be Knockout. Now, just because a Loomian is very niche and only has one proper set, it doesn't mean that a Loomian can't be very devastating. Knockout is one of the best examples of a Loomian that has so much potential. And if you get that potential going, this thing can easily sweep a match. After one Shadow Box, you could take any super effective hit in the entire game on both sides. And that's what makes Knockout very good. Of course, just like Thawmin, it doesn't hit the hardest, but with the Watcher boost, you always go last. So when you go last, you get a 30% damage increase, which is helpful. When you combine that with Rageful Plushie and one Shadow Box, Vital Jab is going to keep you alive, and you're going to be destroying so many teams because offensively, Knockout has very good offensive pressure. It has Brawler, Ancient Stab with Wave Wrecker coverage, and that's what makes Knockout really dangerous. There are really no other sets you could run with Knockout. I guess you could run the Bane of Haste version, but the problem is that the Bane of Haste Knockout is very counteractive with its Watcher ability, so it's not worth really running Bane of Haste on this. But using it as a Rageful Plushie Sweeper makes it very dangerous with the Watcher boost, and that's why it's number 4 on this list. Number 3 onto this list is going to be Typhoon. Typhoon is the reason I made this top 5 niche Loomians list, and it's because this Loomian is most certainly a niche Loomian. It's a non-bulky water type that counters Soulburst Eruptodon. That's amazing! Not to mention, it has Wave Wrecker, so you can actually hit Soulburst Eruptodon quite effectively. It also has Petrifying, and it's the only Loomian in the game that has Petrifying. And that lowers the opposing Loomian's ranged attack by -1, which is awesome. It also has Hazard Removal and Gust and Healing Move and Purge. But other than that, Typhoon does not have that much. Its defensive typing's okay, but it's not amazing. It's good against Soulburst Eruptodon, but not good against other matchups. Ancient Air is pretty decent offensively, but it's not as good compared to other fossils, in fact, any other Loomians in the entire game. That's what makes Typhoon a very good niche Loomian. It benefits from the meta because it's a non-bulky water type that can soak Soulburst Eruptodon hits, meaning that if you use a Typhoon, you can open up with an offensive water type, and that's what can make Typhoon very dangerous, and it's very good for team building. Despite not being the best Loomian on paper, it makes number 3 on the list. Number 2 onto this list is going to be Weasand. Now, Weasand does have a lot of good moves. It has Barbs, it has Slapdown utility, it has Provoke, and it has Driving Force. But everyone knows why Weasand is number 2 on this list. It's its trader ability. When you swap Weasand onto the field, you will immediately trade items to the opposing Loomian. And that's what makes Weasand so good. People only use Weasand because of that trader ability. You trade Heavy Shackles to a fast Loomian, you stun them, and they can't be used properly for the rest of the battle. You can even anti-leak this with Gar Golem Speed. Provoke a Gar Golem Speed, and then place down hazards of your own. That's what makes Weasand very dangerous, is that with that trader ability, you can utilize all the other moves that you have, and that's what makes Weasand very niche. Because without that trader ability, Weasand is not that good of a Loomian. You can use its Rush Hour set, but its Rush Hour set is very hard to use, and its other moves, while good, doesn't really support Weasand's stats, because it's not that bulky, and it doesn't have the best defensive typing. It's Trader. Trader is what carries Weasand into that niche status, and that by itself makes Weasand one of the most useful Loomians in all of Loomian Legacy, especially if you fit it on a team, and that's why it's number 2 on this list. Honorable mentions on this list, and honorable mention is Gar Golem Speed. But it's not just Gar Golem Speed. Any suicide lead counts as my honorable mention. They have one job. It's to outspeed everything, set up hazards, and feint. That's what Gar Golem Speed, Gobademic, even like bulky leads like Lumello does. They're there to place down hazards and feint. And that's what makes them very dangerous, because if you can control the hazards game early, you can be very dangerous. And that's why they're an honorable mention. Number 1 onto this list is going to be Imperior. Imperior definitely deserves the best niche Loomian in the entire game. And it's because of its resentful ability. When knocked out by another Loomian's move, you deal equal damage to them as a final attack. And that's what makes Imperior OP. If you have a very bad matchup, if you're up against a setup sweeper, you swap this thing in, you KO that Loomian, and that Loomian is off the field. And I know what you're thinking. Sacrificing a Loomian equals the battlefield. You lose a Loomian, they lose a Loomian. But if Imperior has a bad matchup, you lose a Loomian that isn't necessarily dangerous to the opposing team, while they lose their crucial wall breaker, which makes Imperior very dangerous. And when you combine that with other moves like Fade Away, Dark Surge, Barter, Shrewd Blast, and Boom Bash, that's what makes Imperior dangerous. It's a Loomian that has a fast feet stat, decent attack stat, pivot, and resentful. But if it wasn't for that resentful ability, Imperior would probably be NU. Because it has the moves, but it can't use those moves as well, because without that resentful, it doesn't hit hard enough. But with that resentful to eliminate a massive threat, puts Imperior as the top niche Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. And here it is, the best niche Loomian in all of Loomian Legacy. Just because you have one specific niche, it doesn't mean that the Loomian is bad, because that one niche can be extremely useful in the Battle Coliseum. And yeah, if there are some other niche Loomians that I missed on the list, please tell me in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!